And thanks for joining me as always. It is much appreciated. Everything Pat's a New England Patriots podcast on this hump day. The Vikings-Patriots joint practice just ended about 1 minute ago. And I want to wait until the entire picture is painted for me out there for Minnesota before I start blasting out opinions and thoughts on what happened during the joint practice and what it might mean for the Patriots this week and moving forward. I will say that from what I've seen, pretty much a mixed bag offensively for Vrabel-Maye and company, and that should not be a shock. Defensively, some good early reports on the pass rush, but I'm going to wait until everything gets settled because what I've learned is when people are on the ground and they see something one way, somebody else sees it a completely different way. So I'll wait until things settle down and there's not these posts flying at me via social media every 2 seconds with somebody saying one thing and somebody saying another. But again, overall, it looks like a pretty mixed bag for the offense today. I'll have a full breakdown of that joint practice over at Locked On Patriots later today. We will release it later today. You can check it out tomorrow before the second joint practice if you would like. But I do want to get to some updates before the joint practice today from Mike Vrabel, because there were a few things that came out that I think are need to know. And so we'll get to those updates, and then we will get to an absolutely loaded training camp mailbag. Let's begin here. Vrabel told the media this morning, early afternoon, that Ramondre Stevenson is not practicing. He did not practice today. He was off to the sidelines going through some drills. The good news is Vrabel said the injury that Stevenson sustained is not significant. Apparently, he got injured during the Washington preseason game. It's not seen as significant, so Stevenson should be back sooner rather than later. That's good news because when you look at the running back depth chart, there are some questions there once you get beyond the top three. Hunter Henry. He didn't practice, of course, early in the week. He did not practice today. However, another bit of good news. Henry might practice tomorrow. It did not sound like Vrabel was alarmed in any kind of way. So it feels like Hunter Henry, whether it's maintenance or it's an injury that's not that big of a deal, it does sound like Henry will be back soon. So that is some great news as well. So Stevenson, Henry, we had some questions early in the week. Sounds like both guys should be back relatively quickly, which, is important to this offense, important to Vrabel-Maye. Now, the other piece of this from Vrabel that wasn't great is Vrabel told the media before this joint practice that Carlton Davis was going to practice. Davis was going to practice. Davis goes out there. He's got pads on. He goes out there, and then all of a sudden, within a couple of minutes, he walks off the field. Then he's standing around on the sidelines, watching the team stretch. And by all intents and purposes, he pretty much was limited, not really involved. So what happened? Was this the plan? When Vrabel said Davis was expected to practice, was it trying to throw a curveball? I find that hard to believe. So it would seem to me like Davis had the plan to practice today, went out there in the pads, and then something happened. And that something caused him to eventually get to the stationary bike. And it just feels like we're going to live through this Carlton Davis thing on and off. Expected to practice, didn't practice, ended up on the bike. Hopefully we can get some more information about that over the next 24 hours. Stephon Diggs was out there. If you were wondering why Stephon Diggs wasn't playing on Friday night against Washington last week, Vrabel said it was because they all felt good and they were all happy with the amount of reps that Diggs was getting during those joint practices and what he's done during camp. So the Diggs thing was not an injury. The Diggs thing was not a disciplinary decision by Vrabel. According to Vrabel today, Stephon Diggs didn't play against Washington because they felt like he got enough reps during the work week, and they felt like it was in the best interest of Diggs to sit him down on the Friday night, let him watch, no big deal. Kevin O'Connell also let us all know that Justin Jefferson is not going to practice this week. So if we were excited to watch Justin Jefferson against some of the cornerbacks, the Patriots, we're not going to see that this week. He did not play last weekend, so the Vikings taking it slow with Jefferson. He's not expected to practice or play this week. So that's kind of a bummer because, of course, when you watch these joint practices, you watch preseason games, you want to see these teams at their best. You want to see the explosive, fun players to watch. That's not going to happen with Justin Jefferson this week. Tobias Hentel, hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Hi, Nick. Greetings from Germany. Greetings from Germany, Tobias. Everything I read today appeared solid day of work, pumped for the season. Yeah, I would say that nothing that I saw from the tweets leading into this live stream were alarming. Again, I want to give the writers some time to write their full reports because when you're going blow by blow, it could be better, it could be worse. So that's why I'm not going to sit here and dive deep into a joint practice when the details are not all out there. I want to see, how did Greg Bedard see this? How did Phil Perry see this? Callahan and Lazar. And I want to look at it in the totality. It sounded like Drake May and the offense got off to a slow start. Then it sounded like they started to pick it up a little bit, specifically May. Travion Henderson made a couple of big plays, not a surprise. But I want to wait to see in totality what people are reporting and see what the players have to say after practice as well. But greetings from Germany. It's always great to hear from people in Germany. I wanted to get to Germany this past, this summer. Wasn't able to because all sorts of stuff going on. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get to Europe and Germany next summer. I think that's the aim. And I'll let you know if we get there. Charlie, cheers, Nick, with the $10 super chat. Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate that very much, sir. Always appreciate the support. So let's jump into this absolutely freaking loaded mailbag. Let's start with K_Roberts48. Do you see New England making a trade for a specific player or trading a player or two away? It's tough to say a specific name, who's available, what will those guys be worth? Terry McLaurin, for example, is he truly available? I don't think he is. Last photo we saw of McLaurin was of him and Adam Peters going back and forth about something on the sidelines during a practice. Are they trying to hammer out the final details of an extension? I have no idea. So it's tough to say who's actually available. We're not talking rumors. We're not talking about innuendo. Who's actually available? Not sure at this time. I mean, you're now getting into the middle of August. So, if the Patriots have an opportunity to improve, I think they'll do it if it makes sense. I think the Patriots would make a deal if they felt like it made their team better. I believe Vrabel when he says that. I think they're in the business of trying to get better. So I do think if there's something out there that they feel is an upgrade, they'll go after it. But I don't think it's likely that anyone would be available that would actually get the fans excited this late in the process. Most teams are set. And, maybe somebody gets cut that you think is an upgrade. But it's very difficult in the middle of August as you're getting ready for the second preseason game to envision somebody becoming available that would be a big boost to your team, get people excited that you would pull the trigger on. It might happen, but I find it unlikely. As far as guys who you could trade, I keep going back to Kendrick Bourne. And, I'm not sure if any of you are paying attention to what's happening in San Francisco, but the 49ers are going through a bunch of injuries to their skill position players. I mean, they've had multiple receivers. They've had multiple receivers go down with injury. Kyle Shanahan this week said that he doesn't expect Brandon Ayuk back until week 5, week 6, maybe week 10. So Ayuk is not pulling a Stephon Diggs and coming back super early or, somehow healing quickly. So San Francisco is in need of at least one receiver right now. And we know that Shanahan loves Kendrick Bourne. We heard all about it last year when the Patriots were trying to trade for Ayuk. Bourne was a part of that deal. So I keep looking to Kendrick Bourne. Now, of course, the question is Kendrick Bourne healthy? Goes out with an injury during that scrimmage, was not seen following, the week following, wasn't there against Washington, is not practicing this week, is not in Minnesota, will not play this weekend. So I don't know where Kendrick Bourne is, whether or not he's healthy. But if the Patriots feel like Bourne is going to be healthy within the next couple of weeks, I'm picking up the phone and I'm calling Kyle Shanahan, I'm calling John Lynch, and I'm trying to deal Kendrick Bourne to San Francisco, because I think that makes sense. And I think the 49ers would be willing to give up a pick. I'm not sure if it would be a 4th-round pick, but I do think it's at least possible you could land a 5th-round pick for Kendrick Bourne. And the way that the Patriots were using Bourne during camp, it didn't feel like he was one of their top 4 receivers. And I don't know if he would have even cracked the top 5, which is surprising to me. I had it wrong. I thought that Kendrick Bourne was going to be an impact player for this team going off 2021 with Josh McDaniels, but it doesn't feel like Bourne was going to be part of the upper tier mix at wide receiver. So I keep looking at Bourne as a possibility. Of course, Anthony Jennings, I also think, is another player that could be traded. He doesn't seem to fit. He's playing special teams with 3 minutes left on Friday night. Not a good sign for a guy who's played as long as he has. He's a solid player. I think the Patriots could get something back for Anthony Jennings. _bro_7. Why does Greg Bedard love Mac Jones and hate Drake May? Laughing, crying emoji. I think Greg hates everything aside from offensive linemen, his Binky Dolphins teams from when he grew up, and stories of the Packers and Lambeau Field. Everything else, Greg doesn't like. Tom H. McGee. I kid. Tom H. McGee. What nuances in Campbell's game can average fans look for to assuage their concerns of him being able to play left tackle? Well, number one, it's like if you're seeing Campbell and he looks like he's playing catch up with fast edge rushers, that's not good. If he's, looking like a turnstile, if it looks like he's, at the last second trying to jab at pass rushers, you could see, I think, a little bit of that desperation if it's there. Now, on the inside, Greg Bedard, my buddy, made a great point during our podcast that we recorded this week, which was when Will Campbell gets overextended, when he gets overextended and he starts losing inside. So when he's getting overextended to the outside and he starts losing inside, Campbell a lot will throw his right arm out, almost like a clothesline in the WWE. He'll just throw his right arm out. So if you see Campbell throwing his right arm out at pass rushers to the inside, that means he's desperately trying to stop them from getting past him. So I think you just look at how he's handling the pass rush on the outside and whether or not dudes are just beating him. You can see that, right? Does he look like he's mirroring the pass rusher? And 2, is he doing that desperation right arm clothesline thing? Is he doing it a lot? Because if he's doing it a lot, that means he's getting beat to the inside a lot, and that would not be good. That would be no bueno. Before I go on, got a bunch of other mailbag questions to get to. Don't forget to throw up that thumb if you like what we do here. If you enjoy watching, listening to the podcast, those thumbs up mean an awful lot to us. They help us with that algorithm on YouTube. So don't forget to click that like button. Don't forget to throw a comment in as well. Always love your comments. And don't forget to subscribe. We reached our goal of 7,000 subscribers this week, and it's thanks to all of you. So don't forget to comment, subscribe. Don't forget to rate, review, and follow over at Spotify and Apple Pods, my friends over there. Appreciate every single one of you. Little Taz _7. With Craig Woodson taking top reps at safety, is Duggar a cut candidate now? I disagree with Bedard and some others on this. I don't think Duggar is going to get cut. Now, I could be wrong. Wouldn't be the first time. Won't be the last. I don't think Duggar is going to get cut because of 2 reasons. I do think the money matters. And I also think just because of insurance purposes. I mean, when you look at Jabril Peppers, he turns 30 in October. He has an injury history. He plays a physical brand of football. And when you look at what this defense wants to do, they want to be violent. They want to be active. They want to be physical. So I think he's going to make it because of insurance and because of the money situation. If they cut him, he's 14.5, a dead cap. I thought Greg, again, to give him a little bit of love here, he went into the idea of why he thinks Duggar could still get cut, even though the money situation. You can check that out on the Greg Bedard Patriots podcast with Nick Cattles. That was released yesterday. but it makes it tougher. I did see that Duggar had a defensive pass interference during the joint practice today. Vrabel was asked about Duggar today. Didn't necessarily get behind the veteran, so to speak. So Duggar's no doubt he's on thin ice. If he does make it, I think he's making it as a 4th/5th safety. And Del Pettis is probably the guy. He's probably the guy that would have to leapfrog Duggar for Duggar to be cut. Anonymous, thank you for the $20 super chat. Congratulations on the 7,000 subscribers. Thank you, sir. You've been one of the originals with this podcast. Always appreciate the support and the kind words. Thank you so much for that $20 super chat. QT the GOAT 225. Are you worried Mike Vrabel and Drake Maye would possibly have a Tua Flores type relationship? No, I'm not worried about Drake Maye and Mike Vrabel having this tense, awful relationship. Let's remember when Flores was in Miami, Flores reportedly didn't want Tua as the quarterback. Tua was not a Flores guy. Tua was a Chris Greer guy. So number one, the head coach didn't necessarily want the quarterback in that situation. Mike Vrabel picked the Patriots. Don't get it twisted. He picked the Patriots. The Patriots did not pick him. Vrabel had multiple teams interested. Vrabel picked the Patriots, and one of the reasons why Vrabel picked the Patriots was because of Drake Maye. So I feel like Vrabel likes Drake Maye much more than Flores liked Tua. That's number one. Number two, Flores was a first-time head coach, and he has even admitted that he didn't handle everything correctly, and he could have done a much better job with Tua. This is not Vrabel's first rodeo. He's worked with a bunch of different quarterbacks as a head coach. I think he understands how to communicate to those guys. So I'm not overly worried that Vrabel is going to handle Maye the same way that Flores handled Tua. I think Vrabel, he does give some guys some love, and he's going to keep people's feet to the fire, but he balances stuff very well. If you listen to any of his former players, they will tell you that Vrabel can be very tough on you. He makes it difficult, but there's the other side to him where he does sympathize with you at times. He does kind of give you good information and good advice, life, football, and that he does care about his players, and the players know that. I don't know if Flores did a good enough job when it came to that other part. I think Flores was tough on Tua. I don't think he understood how tough he was being on Tua. And I'm not so sure that he reached out to Tua in a way to make him know that things were going to be all right, like I think Vrabel will. So I just think Vrabel understands the psyche better. Flores might understand it now better after going through what he went through in Miami. But Vrabel had the Tennessee trail. He had that, he had that opportunity to, go trial by fire there and figure it out. And now I think he has a really good understanding how to handle players. And I think he originally had a pretty good understanding how to handle players. And also I'd say, Drake is not Tua. Tua is not Drake. Drake does a great job taking accountability and responsibility for his mistakes. And I do think that will help him with Vrabel. Head of the Pugs. What NFL team will disappoint the most this year? So a non-Patriots question, but an NFL question. I love it. Make sure you check out Crafts and Kickoffs, my NFL podcast. We're going to go live on Thursday nights during the football season. I love this question. The Rams. I think the Rams are going to disappoint this year. They had a very good season a year ago. I think a lot of Sean McVay, but I am petrified of the Matthew Stafford situation. I am petrified what's going on there. What Sean McVay has been saying publicly and telling the media has not been matching up with what's going on with Stafford. At first, it was, he's just going to miss a week. And then all of a sudden, it was, he's week to week. And then he was supposed to get back on the field this week, and that hasn't happened. And so, I don't feel great about the Stafford thing. He's in his late 30s now. He took a ton of hits in Detroit. I don't think, and frankly, it's not Sean McVay's job to be transparent, and it's not in his best interest to go out there and go, yeah, we are really worried about our starting quarterback. That would be ridiculous. It'd be asinine. But I don't think what McVay is saying publicly is how he really feels. I think there's some concern there. I'm not saying Stafford's done for the season. I'm not saying he's done for his career. But, when you come out and you publicly say things and then we don't see it play out and you say, well, we're planning to have him back on Monday and he should have no limitations, and then he's in street clothes yesterday, doesn't feel like things are right with Stafford. And I do not believe in Jimmy G. Never believed in Jimmy G. Still don't believe in Jimmy G. He's had just a litany of injury problems. I would not bet on him being the guy. Quick super chat from Terry. Thank you, Terry. Happy belated birthday and reaching 7,000 subscribers. Yes, yesterday was my birthday. Not a crazy day. The only thing I did, frankly, was had some Chinese food. I allowed myself to have some Chinese food. And the celebration, the truly letting it go, will happen this weekend. But thank you so much for the generosity, Terry, the $50 super chat. You've supported us from day one. Appreciate you. All right, let's go to not one, but two Travian Henderson questions. Pamper of Erpo 12. Hopefully I pronounced that right. It's a handle. What do you think the chances are for Henderson to become the lead running back during the course of the season? And then the real hip asked, as a Buckeye fan, I keep tabs on all of them as they enter the NFL. What are your first impressions of Henderson? What kind of impact do you think he will have on the Pats this year? Look, Henderson has stud ability. And Burley asked me, did I have some crab rangoon? Absolutely. Crab rangoon is 100. There's never a doubt. When I order Chinese food, it's the same stuff all the time. It's sweet and sour chicken. It's crab rangoon. It's spear ribs. It's an egg roll. It's some rice. Crab rangoon has to be part of the order. Henderson, stud ability. I felt that way when he was drafted, as many of you know. I felt that way when I watched him at Ohio State. He's from Virginia. I've spent time in Virginia. I'm back, Virginia. So I've watched and read a lot about Henderson even before he got to college football. I read about him. I think he's got special traits, the explosivity, the speed, all that stuff. Again, he made another play or two that was great today in the passing game. He took one play to the house. It was like a 10-yard pass or so, and he takes it 60, 70 yards to the house. He's just a different guy. He's a different type of athlete. And the fact that he's so good in pass pro means that he's in the playbook, and he had another fantastic block during practice today, according to Evan Lazar. And it's his ability to, pass protect that's going to first get him on the field. But it's that explosivity, receiving skill at running back. As far as being the lead running back, I actually did a podcast. I did an episode going back a couple of months ago about the idea of Henderson being the lead back. I do think there's a chance. I wouldn't say it's likely, but there's a chance. If Ramondre Stevenson continues to fumble the football, the Patriots might have to make Henderson the lead back. Gibson is more of a number two guy. I think, though, going into the season, I would not be surprised if it's split pretty evenly at running back between Stevenson and Henderson. I do think Gibson will get some looks. He should get some looks. But Henderson could end up getting more opportunity if those other guys aren't showing out. If you got fumble issues, if Gibson isn't really, hitting on all cylinders, then you're going to go to Henderson. I also think special teams matter. Obviously, the Patriots want to use, Jeremy Springer wants to use Henderson on special teams as a returner. We saw why against the Commanders on Friday night. So that will also play a role because you do have to keep a close eye on his usage. He has an injury history. And at Ohio State, when they decided to, bring in Judkins, that's really when things turned for Henderson because they didn't have to use him as much. And he was more productive in that role. So I think that also plays into the decision-making. Benavidez Nick, will the offense play more of a 50-50 scheme on run pass to allow May some breathing room and use Stevenson and Henderson like the Lions use Gibbs and Montgomery? I did a pod a couple of months ago, if you want to really dive deep into this, Nick, where it was about the Patriots running the football and why I expected the Patriots to run the football a lot more than some other people might have been expecting. You go back to the history of Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels. Both coaches love to run the ball. Both coaches have had success at different levels running the football or varying degrees. McDaniels usually has a good run offense. I also think the offensive line is better run blocking right now. I think the staff knows it. The players know it. And when you look at, the left side of the line, when you've got Wilson and Campbell, your two rookies, you might want to get them going a little bit in the run game before you ask them to pass protect consistently. So I think the offensive line lends itself to running the football. And the coaches also make me believe they will run the football. They've got talent at the running back position as well, so you want to use those guys. I think the Patriots have the components of being a top 10 run offense this year. Top 10 or so, maybe just on the outside. Mr. Magoo, if the Patriots make it back to the playoffs this season, which unit will be more responsible for their success, offense or defense? Defense. I think the ceiling of this offense is around 15th, 16th. I think they could end up right about the middle of the pack offensively this year, which would be a huge upgrade to what we've seen the last couple of years. But if everything works on defense, I feel like this defense is capable of having at least a top 10 defense in football. Of course, the health of Gonzalez and Davis will be huge. Is the pass rush? They have had a great pass rush during camp. Is that going to be a thing in the regular season? And my biggest question about the defense, I think right now, is can they consistently defend the run? I think they got some leakage in that run defense. Can they consistently defend the run? But I think, if the Patriots, hypothetically, if they get to the playoffs, is it more offense or defense? I think it's defense. Show_1. Will the Patriots address the O-line before the season starts, i.e. a surprise veteran cut or trade? If someone they think is an upgrade, as I said earlier, gets cut, I think they bring him in. But how good do they really feel about that person, right? Like if somebody gets cut this late, and it's an offensive lineman, there's a lot of teams looking for offensive linemen. You could always upgrade on the offensive line. So when somebody gets cut in the middle of August or late August, I immediately have some questions as to why that person got cut. So I'm not sure what level of offensive lineman you're going to get out there via the waiver. I also think that, teams aren't looking to trade offensive linemen. They're looking to keep offensive linemen. So if somebody's offering an O-lineman via a trade, I also wonder what the situation is. I might not feel super comfortable about that. This is not like a Laramie Tunsil thing where somebody's trying to trade him. Houston trades him because they want picks so they can go into the draft and address it. If you're trading, an offensive lineman for picks in 2026, I'm questioning the offensive lineman involved. I also think it depends on how this staff feels about Marcus Bryant. We've heard good things, but do they really believe Bryant could end up being their top backup tackle eventually? How do they really feel about Caden Wallace and his transition to left guard? Do they really believe that Wallace can play left guard, or are they desperate as a staff and trying to do what they could do to get Wallace on the field? Does Sidy Sow stay healthy? He wasn't healthy last year. He hasn't been healthy all camp. And Cole Strange, in or out? I'm probably thinking out right now. So I think a lot of things will decide that. But it's very difficult to add an offensive lineman in the middle of August that's going to make a significant difference. Troxelberg, who do you keep as kicker? Also, can you hide the other one on the practice squad? Right now, I'm going Parker Romo. I think Borregales was 5 of 6 today. He missed a 50-plus. He made a 50-plus. I'm going Parker Romo right now because he's been slightly better. We'll see what happens this week. It's been a very tight race. I don't think that's been decided just yet. It likely goes to the bitter end. Now, whether or not they can get a practice, if they can get a kicker on the practice squad, it depends on if another team is desperate. It feels like there's always like 1 or 2 kicker moves at the end of a preseason, right? Just feels that way to me. I haven't gone back and done the research, but it just feels like after every preseason, a team makes a move. A couple of teams make a move at kicker. It just feels that way. So I think they'll both end up with starting jobs in the NFL this year. I think both Romo and Borregales will end up being kickers on a team. And right now, I think Romo has the lead. But again, it's very, very tight. Pats_FGM. How many games do you see in the schedule in which the Pats clearly have a superior defense on the field? So superior defense, superior is a high bar, and clearly means it's a no-brainer, right? So I might be off one or two other kind of tight races here, but looking at the Patriots schedule quickly and looking at defenses that I think the Patriots defense is clearly better than, I've got them clearly better than the Raiders. Miami's defense, because Miami's secondary, their cornerback situation is a disaster right now. Better than the Saints, better than the Browns, better than the Falcons, better than the Bengals. I'm still amazed that the Bengals didn't do more defensively after what they had last year. There might be one or two other teams, but I think those are the teams that jump out at me right away. If Marcus Bryant keeps getting better, as Doug Marrone and Evan Lazar say, and the other two rookies on the line pan out, how would you grade this season's draft? That's from Stephen J. Coakley. Look, if Campbell works out, that means you got yourself a franchise left tackle. I'm not saying he's going to be a Pro Bowler or an All-Pro. I'm just saying if Campbell works out, that means you've got a left tackle for the next 10, 12, 14 years. If you could get a franchise left tackle, if you could get a starting left guard, which would be Jared Wilson, and you get a swing offensive tackle out of one draft, that's a really, really solid draft. Usually when you look at a draft, if you get 3 starters from a draft, it's a win, if not a big win. And so if you're looking at it that way, Campbell and Wilson, I think, are going to be starting offensive linemen. Now, you might have to eventually move Campbell to left guard and Wilson to center. Or what. I think you've got 2 starting offensive linemen, no doubt, period, end of sentence, with Campbell and Wilson. Bryant has surprised some people, and it sounds like he's got some legitimate potential as a swing tackle. As a 7th-round pick, that would be a huge win. Huge win. And we're not even talking about the other guys. You still have to think about Henderson. Henderson certainly looks like he's going to be an impact player in the NFL. Kyle Williams, I think, eventually will be starting for this team down the road. And I do think he's an NFL receiver. He dropped another pass today. That's one thing we got to keep an eye on. Craig Woodson, I think, if not this year, by the end of the season, I think next year will end up being one of your starting safeties. So, I mean, I felt really good about the draft when it happened. I feel really good about the draft right now. I think how the guys have been performing, how they've adapted as quickly as they've adapted, I think the draft was a big hit for the Pats. But we've got to see. I mean, you ultimately don't grade a draft. You ultimately don't grade a draft until, 2 years, 3 years down the road. But right now, I mean, if you ended up with those 3 offensive linemen being, 2 starters in a swing, if Bryant ends up starting at right tackle down the road, I mean, that right there is huge. Not to mention the skill position players, and not to mention guys like Joshua Farmer and Braden Swinson, who might also eventually play a role, if not a big role. So felt good about the draft in April. Feel really good about the draft right now. Feel really good about it. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to subscribe. Those three things help us, especially the likes and the comments. Appreciate every single one of you for jumping on live. Back on Friday, 3 o'clock here on YouTube. Until then, be well and enjoy the rest of your hump day.